Hi again. I now want to go through the poker application and to show you my solution of the poker application. I have all the classes in one file, the main.java file. Here, if I open this file, you see I have a card class, a deck, and a hand, and a main class, and then some enums, rank and suit. Only the deck, hand, and main classes were mandatory. The rest are optional. So let us first look at the enums. I think they are very handy, a handy way of representing values with names, a list of named values. You could have used strings instead, but using strings are more error prone, and using enums is also more readable in your application. And it is much easier to change an enum value without getting any errors in your application. So I prefer to use enums, and I think you should too. Then, so we have enums for the ranks and the suits. And then I created a card class to hold or to represent a card. And the card has a rank and a suit, and it has a way to represent itself as a string, or to convert. It's possible to convert a card object to a string using the toString method. So in this case, it will return the string rank, which would be the name of the enum, like ace. And then ace of hearts, for example. So that is a card. Then the deck. The deck contains all the cards. And I think this class and the card class, they mirror the real world objects of decks and cards. And that is an ambition when you do OOP, to find real world representations to create real world representations in your application of real world objects. So a deck has cards, a list of cards, and when a deck is created, we create all the cards in the deck. We create them here, new card, for each combination of rank and suit, and add each card to the list of cards. Then later on, I have a draw method which will draw a card from the deck, and in this case I will draw a randomly selected card. Lots of you have used a way to shuffle the deck, perhaps using collections.shuffle, and that is a good way to create randomness in your deck or in your hand. I have instead used randomness here using the random class and creating a random object, rand, and by using the next int of this object to get random number between 0 and the number of cards in the deck, -1. And a card is selected using that random number from the deck and removed from the deck actually, and returned by this method draw back to the caller of this method. So let us go down to the main class to see how this works, how we use this this draw method. In the main method, a new deck is created here, and then a new hand. And in this case, I add 5 cards to the hand by using a for loop, and in each turn, in each iteration of this loop, I will draw a card from the deck, and then going inside this draw method, here I will randomly select a card from the deck. The card will be removed from the deck and then returned back to the caller of this method. And the caller will then add it to the hand using the add card method of the hand. So let us look what happens there. If I go into the add card method of the hand, we go here and you see the hand class also has a list of cards, and the add card method will receive a card and add it to that list. But it will check that the hand will at most have 5 cards. So you cannot add more than 5 cards to this list of cards. And after that, it's time to evaluate your hand. So I do a couple of print lines. Poker hand evaluation, that's a header. And then I print the hand. And what is happening here? I print the hand. And what happens then? Actually, what happens here is that the toString method is called. So the toString of the hand class is called here. Let us look at the toString method of the hand class. Here it is. We have toString here of the hand class, where I use a string builder to create a string in steps. So for each card, I append to the builder this card's string representation. So that means that the card class's toString will be called here. Let's look at that one. Here we have the card class and its toString method. Rank of suit will be returned. Here. So rank of suit, like ace of hearts, for example. And then we append a new line. And then we do this for all of the cards. And the last step is to return a string using the builder and convert the content of the builder to a string using the toString method. So that is what is happening here. The toString method of the hand class is called, and returning a string showing all the cards in my hand. And then it is time to evaluate the hand. It happens here. And as you see, this method actually returns a list of strings. All of you have created an evaluate method that does the printing inside of the method. And it is a good way of thinking to separate the presentation of data from the logic in the application. And that is what I want to do here. The evaluate method just creates the evaluation result in a string format, but it does not print them to the screen, to the console. That is left for the main method here to do. So it is done here. I will go through all my evaluations in this loop and print each evaluation to the screen, to the console, in this println statement. And that leaves the evaluate method. What it should do then is only to calculate or create these strings. It should do no printouts to the screen. And that is a better way to do methods, usually, to avoid sprinkling print lines or println statements in your methods, and concentrate all your presentations logic in one place in the application. In this case, the main method. So the evaluate method then, what does it do? Well, it will do two different evaluations. One, to evaluate the existence of high cards, and another to evaluate the existence of pairs in my hand. And then it will return two strings, one string containing the string high cards, colon, and then a string of the high cards. And then another string containing pair, colon, and then the string of the pairs. Let us look at the get high cards method. It creates a list of high cards, an array list here, and it will populate that list or add cards to this list using this for loop, where we will iterate over all the cards in the hand and check for each card that is larger than or equals to 10. If it is larger than or equals to the rank of 10, then it is a high card and will be added to the high cards list. Or rather, the string representation of this card is added to this list. And as a last step, we check if this list is empty or not. If it is empty, I want to return a string none. And if it is not empty, that is, if it contains any high cards, I want to return a comma-separated string of all the high cards. And I think I created a hint in the description hinting you of this method string.join, which takes a list of strings, high cards, and from that list it will create a string, only one string, where each string in the list is separated with a delimiter, in this case a comma and a space. So this will then return a string back to the caller of the getHighCards method. So it will come up here again and it will say high cards colon either none or this comma separated string of all the high cards. Then we have the getPairs method, the getPairs method. And it can be done in several ways. Lots of you have used a hash map or a hash set to find all the pairs, and you have succeeded in that. So there are several ways to do this. I have used 2 for loops, one loop nested in another. So in the outer for loop, I will start by iterating through all the cards in my hand from 0 to the card's size, that is 5. And then inside in the inner loop, I will start from I+1. That is, in the first iteration, it will be 0 plus 1, and I will proceed up until j is the counter in this loop, is less than the size of the cards, less than 5. And inside here I check. I compare the cards in my hand with each other to see if there are 2 cards with the same rank. If I find 2 cards with the same rank, I will add them to the pairs list. Or rather, here I will actually add not the card but the rank and the string representation of the rank. And then I will break this inner loop, since I found a pair already and I don't need to search for more cards. And eventually, when I have gone through all the cards in my hand, this loop is done, and I check the pairs list to see if it is empty, and if it is, I return none. But if it is not empty, that is, if it contains any pairs, I will again return a comma-separated list or string, a comma-separated string of pairs. And I will return that to the caller of getPairs, which is this evaluate method up here. So when both of these methods are done and executed, I will return 2 lists, 2 strings. One string containing high cards, colon, and then all the high cards, and then one string containing pair, colon, and all the pairs. And then down here, I return the evaluations into this list here, and I iterate over this list and print out all the evaluations to the screen. So I want you to think about how what I returned from this evaluate method. Most of you have created an evaluate method that returns nothing, that is void. And it is okay at this stage to do this, but that means that you will need to sprinkle your evaluate method with lots of println statements. And this evaluate method then becomes less useful for you if you want to just get hold of the evaluations and use them in some other context. For example, if you're creating some other type of application which is not a console application, and there you might want to return these evaluations back to perhaps a web browser. So it is a good practice to differentiate the presentation from the logic, which this evaluate method do. Thank you very much.